Drop that.
Alright, so this video was supposed to come out yesterday, and even earlier than that, but I got really lazy. My sleep schedule is all over, is all over the fucking place. I'm eating right now, so that's why I might be burping a little bit, but, this video was supposed to come out either Sunday, which is the same day I uploaded My Hero Academia episode review, and if it didn't come out, Sunday, then it was supposed to come out Monday, which is yesterday, I believe. And that didn't happen either, because I was in the middle of doing some stuff. I was in the middle of just, hanging out with my friends on just, like, video games and stuff, just doing whatever, right? And sadly, it kind of just took a lot of my time, and I got distracted, and just, didn't do what I wanted to do. If you hear stuff in the background, that's just my fucking chair. So, today, we're talking about Persona 5. I believe it's episode 10? I want to say it's episode 10. If it's not episode 10, it's episode 9. I don't remember which episode it is. But I will say, in the beginning, lots of fan service, and even though there's lots of fan service, it's kind of enjoyable, because one of the two center focuses of the episode is Miss Kawakami, who's Ren's homeroom teacher at Shujin Academy, and then Ryuji, which is obviously one of the members of the Phantom Thieves. And Miss Kawakami doesn't really do much besides provide a little bit of fan service, and if you played the video games or you already watched the episode, you already know what that kind of is all about. But the fan service immediately starts in the beginning when they're in Mementos, right? They're in Mementos, and then they're like, they find pieces of clothing, which in the video game it's like armor shit, right? It's better armor for, their characters, right? So they go back to the real world, and then after the intro, fan service pretty much starts immediately, right? And all the others, they're like in a hot springs kind of like area thing, right? And the first shot besides Morgana is on, and she's like washing herself, and you almost like see, little bits and pieces of her womanhood. And obviously because she's in a team with like 3 other fucking dudes, they're like, and there's like some old fucking guy right next to them, so it's like really uncomfortable. After that whole fucking scene, right, I was just like, dog, I don't even want to imagine what other fan service they have planned for whenever Futaba and Makoto shows up. And Makoto might actually become a member of the Phantom Thieves next week. That's my prediction, just from the type of information that we found out in this week's episode. But so far, we don't really see Makoto all that much, right? So after that happens, Ryuji wants to fucking do something, right? Because he wants to go after the next big target. And they were talking about, like, yeah, there's a lot of adults who are trying to, get after fame. There's a lot of sleazy adults that will do anything, and they may actually potentially have a palace, right? But Morgana, excuse me, Morgana brings up the fact that, Morgana brings up the fact that Madarame was a much bigger, case than Kamoshida. Madarame was a much bigger case than Kamoshida. Kamoshida was like a gym teacher, right? And then Madarame was this fucking, artist who was found out that he was plagiarizing fucking work and abusing kids and shit like that, right? So, obviously the police and the media are going to try to figure out who the Phantom Thieves are. So at times they have to lay low a little bit, but luckily because we have episodes like this, all of that, like, hiding and shit like that, and laying low or whatever, that all pretty much means jack shit, because the next scene, Ryuji's trying to figure out what he wants to do, whatever, right? Because he doesn't want to fucking study, because they're supposed to have fucking midterms, and then he finds a piece of paper or whatever, right, an advert in his mailbox, and Ryuji then texts Ren, like, meet him up at a private location, because he doesn't want Morgana to know. He doesn't want I guess Yusuke, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if he knows it or not. And then An, he doesn't want her to know either. And basically, the advert that he got in his mailbox is for maid service, right? And it's in the maid service that they have in Japan is probably significantly different from what we have. So there's, you know, the typical maid service, like cleaning, you know, inside of the house, doing laundry, massages, as we later find out in the episode. But there's also there's also other types of services, quote unquote, if you catch my drift. So Ryuji's like, Ren, let's fucking do this shit, right? And then Mishima, he shows up and he's like, I couldn't help but overhear, but I think I want to get on this too, right? And then Ryuji's like, oh, I didn't know you were into that fucking kind of shit. And then Mishima's like, what? No, that's not who I am. I'm doing this for fucking research. Right, research. So Ren fucking agrees to do this shit. The next scene, not the next scene, but like soon after, Mishima and Ren are talking to each other about the fan site, because Mishima actually is the person who actually runs the fan site, the Phantom Thieves, you know, fan website, right? And he wants to take it to something much greater than it already currently is. So they call up the maid service place, and they're all, you know, really insanely fucking nervous. They have never done anything like this before. It's kind of just something that they're not really, you know, ready for, you know, considering that they're high school students. They're like 16, 17, right? And then they're potentially gonna bring in this fucking lady inside this vacant apartment, regardless, right? And then the lady shows up, and then there's already like intense amount of fan service because of what the woman is wearing. She knocks on the door, and she's already speaking in like the most waifu anime voice that you'll ever hear in your goddamn life. And housekeeping services, whatever, right? Ryuji and Mishima are all they feel like they're about to fucking vomit, I swear to God. And they get out, the lady walks in, and then she's talking to Ren, right? She's talking to Ren about like, yeah, this, that, whatever, fan service, etc., etc. And at this point, I already know who it is, but for those who don't know, or could just tell by, you know, the way that the person looks, right? Because we do see bits and pieces of what she looks like. Not bits and pieces, but we see what she looks like, right? But if you can already tell what she looks like, you know that it's Miss Kawakami. If you already played the video games, then you already know who this lady is. But the amount of fan service was just, it was on a different level. This isn't the type of shit that you don't see in the video game. You see this shit in the fucking anime. I'm just like, I'm interested to see how far they're gonna like take this shit, right? So Ren doesn't know what the fuck to do. He doesn't know what to do. He's just like, He's like, and then she figures out that Ren is potentially, you know, a high school student because his like skin texture or some shit, right? Is looks young. It's much better than anyone who's older, right? So I don't know how to fucking say. I don't know what to say about this fucking episode, the certain parts of the episode, without being fucking weird about it, right? So she pretty much already figures out that Ren is, you know, younger because he has healthy and younger skin, and that he's a high school student. This motherfucker comes out with "I'm a dad" bullshit, right? I'm just like, okay, that's like really fucking weird. So she's like, yeah, okay, I'll provide the other services, quote unquote, when you've matured a bit. And she's fucking calling him master and shit. I'm just like, dog, don't fucking twist my emotions like this. You don't need to fucking do this shit, man. I don't know what the fuck you're trying to do. So Mishima and Ryuji are like flipping out. They're outside on the fucking deck, and then they try to fucking run away. Miss Kawakami, the fucking lady, she fucking hears, you know, them screaming and fucking yelling and running away and shit. And then at that point, you know, it's pretty much the cat's out of the bag, right? Almost literally and figuratively, but Morgana isn't there, so it doesn't matter. So literally and figuratively, it's at that moment when Miss Kawakami figures out that it's Ren, and Ren figures out that it's Miss Kawakami. So, you know, it's kind of just this awkward situation. She you know, she admits that she's doing the stuff that she's doing. Not really, you know, because She's not really like called upon for services because that's what we later find out in the episode. But whatever, right? Stuff happens. She leaves. She's like, "Yeah, I'm your fucking homeroom teacher." She leaves. Whatever, right? And then later in the next scene, and when they're back to school, Miss Kawakami is being confronted by the other fucking teacher, right? Because if one of the fucking like other lady teachers was like suspicious about her, and then Ren comes in and fucking saves the day and is like, "Oh yeah, we do like after school studies because I'm autistic and I need fucking help with." I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but basically it's just a cover up, and he asks Miss Kawakami for another question. Apparently, quote unquote, they do after school studies because Ren needs help for whatever, right? So it's kind of whatever. So he covers her back, and then other like Ryuji stuff happens, like backstory stuff, right, with the track team. That happens with him, and basically Ren is just kind of like, well, I want to help my friend, so I'm gonna call on Miss Kawakami again and kind of ask her questions about like what's up with like his past and with the track team and stuff like that, right? And basically, we later figure out that Ryuji has anger issues and he loses his temper a lot. But the reason why he holds back his emotions is not for himself, but for his teacher. And the reason why he actually was almost attacked Kamoshida was because Kamoshida was provoking him and mentioning his mother. And as we learned from a couple weeks ago, about his backstory and stuff with him and his mom, it's a situation that he just really doesn't really appreciate when people mention his mom, and it's insult her basically. So he tries to just do his best, and he blames himself for what he did to the track team, and that's why Ryuji seems like a more relatable character to some people, I imagine, and he's a good character. Ryuji's a lot of fun. I think he's one of the better characters to have in a video game in terms of on your team, because he does a lot of like electric shock damage or whatever. And it's he's a good party member, and he's a good friend. He's a good character in the anime. I feel like I think all the characters in this show are really good characters, but we find out more plot stuff. I'm not gonna go into explaining it because there's a lot that I could talk about, but this is kind of like stuff that doesn't really portray more into like the main plot of the series, but it's more side, like backstory, progression for Ryuji as a character. So, and most of that is just due to the whole how the confidant levels works in the video game. So they're doing something similar in the video game. So later on, they go and celebrate for kind of fixing Ryuji's past and making things better for worse, essentially, right? So they go back to the school, the next scene, and Miss Kawakami is talking about how he can call her again, right, if he wants, and of course she kind of says that he can provide her, or she could provide him special services, but not those special services. So laundry, cleaning, and his fucking like bedroom and shit, and just all that shit, right? It's massages, as she mentions in the same scene, and that's pretty much it. The episode ends with her doing laundry, and she seems like, what the hell, right? And I'm just like, what? You said you'd fucking do it, so what the fuck cares? The final scene is basically just more plot. It sets up the plot for next week's episode, or this Saturday's episode, which will eventually probably get Morgana into the Phantom Thief of Thieves, or the Phantom Thief of Hearts. That's what I meant to say. And with the next big target that they're gonna go after, which is kind of Shiro, I believe that's what his name is. And he's a much bigger target, much bigger target than Madarame, but it's more plot stuff, and that's pretty much how the episode ends. And that's pretty much how it ends. I thought the episode was a lot of fun to watch in certain aspects. I thought it was neat to figure out more stuff about Ryuji Sakamoto, and that's because it's been a while since I played the video game, so I almost kind of forgot like what his morale is and kind of how he is as a person. It's been a while since I played the video game, so seeing a lot of the stuff with his character progressing, it was really neat. It was very interesting to kind of see again. And then of course You know, anybody appreciates a little bit of fan service, but the amount of fan service that he had for Miss Kawakami, especially on in the beginning of the episode, was certainly different than others that I've seen from other anime. You know, other shonen anime, because that's the type of anime that I kind of watch the most, which is shonen. But regardless, that's the end of the episode. It was really good. It looked good. Music was fucking phenomenal. There were a couple of soundtracks that I haven't heard in a while that I really wanted to hear. That was really good. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like. If you are new, please subscribe. Go watch the episode if you haven't already. There will be a link in the description to Crunchyroll, so you can go watch any of your anime that you want to watch whenever you want. It's whatever. Yeah. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'm out. Peace.